This is Tozali TV. On Tozali TV, we will be bringing to you all the way from northern Nigeria, Africa-rich contents that are educative, informative, and entertaining, such as weddings, fashion, lifestyle, interviews, hangout sports, store openings, celebrity gossips, movies, comedies, just a dose of entertainment. So keep a date with us. Subscribe and like our channel on YouTube at Tozali TV, on Instagram at Tozali. Tozali, the eyeliner magazine. Everything African and more.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Edo Hemen. Welcome to another episode of Politics Today, a program where we discuss politics in Nigeria, the way forward towards the development and economy of the country. We mean to discuss this in the studio is Mr. Umar Yakub. He is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters and House of Representatives. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, so straight to the questions. How would you rate the performance of the present government so far, and what has been the challenges?
Well, to God be the glory. The performance of this government is very clear for everyone to see and indeed feel, because the three fundamental issues that the president and indeed the party campaigned on before the election in 2015, which are the areas of security, fight against corruption, and of course economic development, there has been a tremendous improvement in those areas, and the present administration under the leadership of President Muhammad Buhari had impacted positively to the welfare and well-being of Nigerians in those key areas. We are all witnesses to what was happening before the coming into government of this administration in areas of security, especially in the northeastern part of this country and some states in the northwestern part of this country, whereby Boko Haram has had a very big era, devastated, taken over many local governments in the states of Borno and Yobe, and also had caused mayhem and a lot of destruction and loss of lives and properties because of the challenges of security. That has been substantially addressed by this government. And of course, if you look at the area of improving on the economy and bringing development to the people, there is the social investment programs of this administration, which has touched the lives of so many Nigerians, from youth to market women, to traders, to farmers, especially farmers. And a lot of people have actually found, themselves self-employed because of these schemes, whereby you have the N-Power, the conditional cash transfers, trader money, and the rest. And of course, because of the government's interest in intervening in agriculture, and it found a way of reducing the cost of farm inputs and implements, especially fertilizer, which before was out of reach to the ordinary farmers. And even when they can afford it, it is not available. Government had made it possible that in every nook and cranny of this country, fertilizers are available at half the price they used to be. So there has been a tremendous boost in terms of agricultural production. And of course, a lot of people have developed the interest, pleasantly so, in agriculture, doing one form of farming or the other. Rice production, as you know, we used to import all the rice, almost all the rice we eat in this country, but now very small amount of it is being imported. And we are sure, God willing, by the time this administration comes back into power with the support of Nigerians, we shall be net exporters of rice and other farm produce. And if you look at all the other agricultural sectors as well, there's been tremendous improvement. Poultry, you know, um, beef production, name it. The government has brought its initiative to bear in those sectors with tremendous improvement, of course, to the admiration and accomplishment of Nigerians. So I would say the government has fared very well. And certainly, if you look at the area of the fight of, against corruption, the anti-corruption drive of this administration, under the leadership of President Muhammad Buhari, has seen a significant improvement. We have achieved a lot. Things that were not expected, unprecedented, had been discovered. People stashing monies in various places, ill-gotten wealth. Now that has been exposed, and they are being prosecuted, people that have looted public funds. And there is no hiding place, really. And so therefore, we have, because of that recognition, Nigerians now understood that really there is a big challenge on the part of government. And of course, it is up and doing in that direction. And we are now respected as a government and as a country that is in tune with its realities and is indeed, doing all it can to make sure that all the ills of the past and the wrongs are corrected through positive engagement and enlightenment and education. And of course, because of the commitment of Mr. President, we are appreciated so far by the Committee of Nations, are respected that we are serious about our affairs, and we are up to the task.
Okay. Coming back to your office as the special advisor to the president on National Assembly matters, the government of President Buhari, it's a fighting corruption government. How has National Assembly helped the government in fighting corruption?
Well, fighting corruption is a continuous process, and of course, it's not that there hasn't been laws before to check corruption in the country, but of course, this administration, because of its commitment in that direction, is engaging positively with the legislature with a view to looking at the laws and a spatial, institutions that could be empowered, those that exist and those that might be considered necessary in the fight against corruption. And I'm sure we're getting the right cooperation in that direction from the National Assembly. And of course, we're even more hopeful that in the 9th Assembly, i.e. after the elections, we'll continue to enjoy the support and even more, because this country is ours. The members in the National Assembly are representatives of the people, and they are there to do the bidding of the Nigerian people who voted for them in confidence that they would come and pursue and represent their interests to the extent of making laws for good governance and order in this country. And the fight against corruption has massive support and mass appeal from the Nigerian masses, and of course they want to see it continue, and they want to see the commitment from all tiers of government, and all arms of government for that matter. So we are all partners in that direction, the executives, the legislature, and of course the judiciary, who ultimately will be prosecuting the cases of corrupt members of the public.
Thank you. And what are the plans that the government have towards improving the country when it comes to better life for Nigerians, most especially common man? What are the plans the government have towards improving this?
Well, I think those key factors, those key fundamental issues that we have campaigned on in 2015 and that the Mr. President is still campaigning, it's not that, it is an end in itself. It continues. And they are very basic, because you cannot build a virile, egalitarian, progressive society when you don't have security. So it's essential to secure the lives and properties of Nigerians, which is why Mr. President always hammers that wherever he goes. He's going to continue that. And of course, you have to fight corruption to free the society, to create the environment and the space, to provide for opportunities for people to legally, pursue their ambitions and pursue their lives, knowing that they are protected and the opportunities are given. And people just don't take public commonwealth and appropriate it for themselves to the detriment of the larger society. So fighting corruption is a key element of that progression and that development. And of course, you have the issue of interventions, economic development, providing people with employment, especially the teeming youth and women of this country, whom hitherto has found, a lot of them felt they were living in a hopeless society. If you do not find a white-collar job, or you're not employed by a certain organization or government, then you think all hopes are lost. However, this government has rekindled that hope, has energized the youth, have shown them that you can actually not only survive or live on your own, based on your own competences, initiatives, and drives, but you can actually progress and even employ other people, because now, your expertise, your experience counts. You can put that into action with little support. And that's why all these social intervention programs are going on by the government. And of course, the massive infrastructural programs going on. You find that in every key sector, the government is coming to the rescue, if you like, because some of those sectors are really, had to be tackled specially and specifically because there was so much deficit before in that areas. If you look at road networks, if you look at what we never had before, train services, which is now going on. Interestingly, Nigerians are now having train rides from Kaduna to Abuja. Now it's coming from Lagos to Ibadan, and it will go all the way to Kano and all the states on that corridor all the way to Kano. You find that there is no state in Nigeria that is not feeling a federal presence in terms of infrastructural projects, be it water, road, electricity, which is power, education in terms of schools, healthcare. No single state would not say that it hasn't, in the last 3 years, had the opportunity of getting some intervention in those key infrastructural projects. So that also, of course, propels development, because it creates the environment, and also it supports other things in terms of investment and development, capital development.
So, from your own view, how has National Assembly, because that is your office, that is where, so let's hit there. How has National Assembly contributed in improving the country? When it comes to, for example, the general elections are just by the corner. What role is the National Assembly playing in having a successful election?
Well, the importance of the legislature cannot be overemphasized. In fact, you cannot have a democracy without the legislative arm of government. Because even when you have dictatorial governments, you have military governments, you still have the executive and the judiciary. So the most critical component in a democratic dispensation or process is the legislature. And it does play a very important role in all aspects of governance. And since you mentioned specifically the election, the National Assembly makes laws for for good governance and order of the entire country. So without the laws being made by National Assembly, you will not have a structure, or you will not have, a law guiding or guide any process, including the electoral process. And what you have, like I said, in the judiciary is those that interpret the laws, i.e., when you are prosecuting, the judiciary takes over. But even the laws that the judiciary uses or applies to prosecute cases is done by the National Assembly. So the only institution recognized and empowered by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to make laws for this country. The Electoral Act is one key law that guides all the activities of election, i.e., the electoral umpire, in this case INEC, operates within that law, which is a law, an enactment of the National Assembly. That's one aspect of it. As far as politicking is concerned and electoral contests are concerned, the biggest number of anybody or any institution going for election is the National Assembly, where you find the senators and the House of Representatives in literally covering all the constituencies of this country. So they are part of the promoters of the politicking, the political process, and of course they are part of the electoral process because they are candidates in the election. So you cannot overemphasize the significance of the role and the importance of the legislature in any democratic dispensation.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Politics Today, and we've been talking to Honorable Umar Yakub. Okay, back to you, sir. Vote buying is one of the major challenges during the electioneering process. What exactly is responsible for this?
Well, I think what is responsible for vote buying is because you have a willing giver and a willing taker. The candidates, unfortunately, some of the candidates engage in that kind of illegal way of, gaining election victories. I call it illegal, but also illegitimate, because I wonder who would, in good conscience, would like to sit in any position that would have emerged from an electoral process whereby he knew very well that he was not duly elected by the people he claims to represent. So it's most unfortunate that you find politicians even engaging in that. And unfortunately, you have a youth that are being manipulated by the political class and used to the extent of doing their bidding for them and engaging them in this not only vote buying, but other election malpractices, and of course other election offenses, including creating violence and other things at polling booth. So the cause is that people do not have confidence in themselves, and they are not true to themselves as actually having the interest of the people they intend to represent or to govern, as it were. Because if indeed you have sold yourself, you have sold your manifesto, you have sold your character to the electorates, and you have given them an opportunity to, assess and evaluate you to the extent of whether you are that person that they would like to see represent their interest or lead in governing them, then by all means you have no business buying anybody's votes. Because what are you trying to showcase or signify? That you are there because you have so much interest in their commonwealth, you want to go and steal and loot and appropriate their commonwealth? Or they are there because you just want to be recognized as having such and such offices, even though you are not legitimately empowered? Because if you get to a position that ab initio you went through a fraudulent process, then certainly that position is an illegitimate position that you are occupying. You do not have the mandate of the people, you do not have their votes, and you either bought those votes or you just went and did some malpractices, connive with so and so, and get elected. That is most unfortunate. And in fact, it's an offense in the Electoral Act, which there are punishments to be meted for such offenders when caught. But the good thing is that Nigerians are more aware of that now. And I believe the Nigerian youth understands and appreciates himself to the extent that he would not allow himself, especially come to this election, to be manipulated or used by anybody to create havoc or violence, or to the extent of buying his votes only for you to go and misgovern and misrule him for 4 years. Because how much are you even buying the votes for at the end of the day? Compared to what we have seen and how people have stolen public funds. So imagine what has been happening before this administration, the kind of monies that have been discovered from political office holders, and those are the kind of people that would have actually used those money, that indeed used those monies to buy those votes. But thank God for President Buhari and his fight against corruption. That has been exposed. And now Nigerian public they are not ignorant of the facts. They have all the information at their disposals. They have seen pictures of these loots actually. And therefore no one can come and start lying to them and using them just only to come or get into a public office to continue with that former trend of looting and misgovernance. Nigerians are better than that. They have shown it, they have demonstrated it, and they are speaking out loud in every fora and conceivable way. And certainly we are optimistic that we will have a free, fair, credible election. And I'm sure Nigerians know the difference and would certainly return this government come February 16th and March 2nd. God willing.
Yeah, sure. And so, still coming back to your office, as the advisor to the president on National Assembly matters, we're still talking about National Assembly matters here. What has the National Assembly done to help the government resolve this issue of vote buying?
Well, like I said, it has done, because you see, a lot of times Nigerians are not aware of the fact that it's not that we don't have the laws governing our administration or governing polity. It's not that we don't have the right laws. It's just that we don't have the people that actually make sure they enforce the laws. And the laws are not even made aware to the people. Voter education, which is part of the responsibility of, by the way, the political parties and of course INEC, and even yourselves, the media. We need to educate and enlighten the public to be aware of what is there, what is obtained. That if you do so and so is an offense, punishable by so and so. There are laws already existing. There are acts of the National Assembly that have been assented to. They have become laws because the presidents have assented to those acts, and they are laws of the Federation of Nigeria, and they govern all these aspects of election. So the National Assembly has done that already. Okay. There are existing laws. It's just that we need to, obey those laws and, be responsible players in the political space, both as politicians and people in government, as well as, of course, the masses of the people, the public.
Oh yeah, so election violence also, sir, has been one of our greatest challenges during election. What has government done to prevent this violence, election violence?
Well, the government has taken steps in terms of securing the lives and properties of Nigeria, which is a fundamental responsibility of any government. It's a basic responsibility. And to that extent, it covers the political process and the election space. So therefore, government is conscious of its responsibilities, and it's using all the resources at its disposal to ensure that Nigerians get to vote, exercise their franchise to vote, which is their fundamental right, in an atmosphere devoid of rancor or violence. and it has ensured that it has engaged all the necessary apparatuses of government, i.e. the security agencies, in that direction. And I'm sure you must have had the National Security Advisor's brief on, intelligence that was gathered, and that the Security Committee will live up to its responsibilities by ensuring that even though there are those intelligence reports, that it makes sure that it takes care and lives up to its responsibility of ensuring that there is peace during the election, ensuring that it protects the lives and properties of Nigeria, irrespective of who is responsible for it. So is to enforce that law. The law exists, and the government will not shy away from enforcing the law because it's its responsibilities. And this government doesn't need election violence. We have never used it. President Muhammadu Buhari has never been one that supports violence. We are all living witnesses. He has contested election many times. He has lost 3 times, been to the Supreme Court 3 times. Never once has he ever, shown interest or even provoked people to violence. He's always resorted to the rule, going by the rule of law. He abides by that, he respects that, and he pursues, his interest in the courts. So he's a law-abiding citizen in his own capacity as an individual, and certainly as a president. You don't find any government before that respects laws and orders of courts like this government, and that lives within that space. To the extent that even when you have opposition parties crying foul, or when they raise alarm on any security situation, the government comes in to ensure that the right thing is done. A very classical case is the Anambra governorship election, whereby an opposition won. And he actually, at some point, expressed concern about the law enforcement officers in his state and their neutrality, and he thought they might be biased. And those were considered by government and redeployed. And there was, a free and fair election conducted, and he won under the opposition. Only in President Muhammadu Buhari's government that you find such a space created for everyone under the rule of law.
And so, how important is the PVC, and why should every Nigerian have a PVC?
Because it's every Nigerian's right to elect the leaders that he desires. And in fact, that is a right that everyone must take very seriously. Because it's not for you to come and accuse anybody of having bad leaders or leaders that you didn't vote for, just like we were discussing earlier on about the vote buying and what have you. If you do have your PVC, you are a proud Nigerian, and you believe you have a right to self-determination to the extent that someone that governs you must be someone you choose by popular demand and choice, then you need that PVC to assert that right. And therefore, Nigerians needed to make sure that they choose people that represent and reflect their interests, that would promote good governance, because that is what we had been lacking before. And not only should you have that PVC to vote, but you should make sure that you vote consciously and that you do not subject yourself to, all these vices, especially vote buying. Because what you do is that by allowing yourself to be compromised in that way, you have given up your right to good leadership, which would translate to good governance. And therefore, I am sure that we are now appreciating the significance of that PVC. And I appeal to all Nigerians to ensure that they use their votes wisely by voting the right people. And I can assure you, the right people and the right government that would form the right government in the
government.
All Progressive Congress. So a vote for the All Progressive Congress is a vote for the next level, for continuation, for progress, for development, for security and stability of this country.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming. It's good to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. And now we've come to the end of today's episode of Politics Today. For this and more, you can download the StarTimes app. You can also follow us on Instagram at Tozoli TV. Kindly like our Facebook page at Tozoli Magazine, and also follow us on Twitter at Tozoli Mag 10. I remain Stephanie Edo Heme. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.